Jay, I was watching on your leisure video, and they were talking about parenting and financial independence. And at the beginning of the video, they said that parents are pretty much draining their savings taking care of their adult children. And so when it comes to our children and teaching them about money and financial independence, at what age do you believe that that should start? And then what should we be teaching them specifically?
Um, yeah, I watched that video. I didn't particularly like it, so I answer the back half first. Um, I mean, I think that financial literacy, once you get knowledge yourself, it should become a lifestyle, and it's no age limit. There's no special age. I don't think you should wait to 18 for sure, but if it's a lifestyle, you always have, and I saw them say, one of the gentlemen say the same thing, like you always have opportunities to teach your kid, so when you're out doing a thing, you can just let them in on what you're doing, give them some information. So my kids have been around me so many times when I'm taking care of business, whether it's from a real estate perspective, from just doing a contract or having a meeting, and they hear me talking on the phone, or they're at my office and a certain person who they didn't know before came in the office, and I was sitting in the office with them for an hour, and it seemed kind of intense. My kids ask questions, and most kids ask questions. They're very inquisitive. But when we were growing up, it was always stay out of grown folk business. Mind your business. They ain't feel like telling you the stuff. Me, I'm very open with my kids. I mean, I tell them enough. I don't have to tell them everything. I tell them enough that I'm not shunning them away from the knowledge of the information. And then sometimes we just had those nice rides to school, and we're talking about something that we heard on the news, on the radio, and it has a business component to it. So it becomes a lifestyle, and that makes it easier on you. I talked about finances in another video, and I was just saying it has to become normal. You have to normalize it, and it starts in the house. So it's good to talk to them about finances at 5 and 6 and 8 and 10. So when they're 25 and 20, they're not putting their head down with somebody talking to them about finances, or they running for cover when the finance conversation starts. So I think that's super cool. The video itself, and because I think it was talking, there was the whole premise was about parents draining their retirement because they're taking care of adult kids because they let them move back in their house and things like that. Being an individual who was one of those people at a time, and I don't need to go into the whole thing, but my reasoning for moving into someone's house wasn't the typical reason, but I was there nevertheless. We are set up completely wrong. And I say we, talking about in the African American community. Like, we really think that that's a bad thing, that your kid is not done. You're not done with your kid at 18. And that's like the dumbest thing in the world to me. Like, my daughter's 3 years away from being 18 this year, and I have no thought in my mind of not being around her after she's 18. After she goes off to college, if that's what she continuously wants to do. I have no inkling in my mind. Like, that's not even a clue, because she is a part of me. She's a part of this family. I don't care if she starts another family. If it's truly family, then my family has grown larger because she got married and had kids. Not she has her own family off to here. And that's just like the dumbest stuff I've ever heard. And I've heard many people in the past generation say these things, and they act and move like that, like it's a separate family. It's a separate unit. If my child is not prepared to face the big bad world at 18, that's what I'm here for. And see, what happens is a lot of the baby boomer generation and other generations have sent us to college, not being able to afford to pay for us to go to college, and with the anticipation that we'll get a job and pay for our own college. That's your decision to send your kid to college. And I know families who are, you going to college. That's automatic. Why? It's like saying you're going to go get a car and you can't afford it. It's more than one way to skin a cat, but a lot of parents have these things where they got to prove to their friends and their constituents that their kid is okay and their kid is great because they want to have these accolades to come back home to. But you put them in a situation because they talk heavily on student loan debt. And they're saying kids, and it's like kind of like behind my generation. I don't know. I'm in the middle of the Gen X and baby boom. I'm a Gen X and millennial thing. So depending upon who's counting, I'm one or the other. But I'll be at the end of the X or the beginning of millennial. So I'm kind of in limbo. So there's a lot of the younger millennials, that are going through this. I gravitate more to the Gen X piece. But the younger millennials are the ones who had to go back home and stay with their parents for those reasons with the student loans. And I'm looking at it like I can never think about putting my kid in college that I can't pay for. That's not on my daughter. That's not on my son. That's my responsibility. So when I'm retired, all these years later, they won't have to move in because of a student loan debt because that's my debt. It's my debt. My kids should never have to do that because they got their own kids. And if your family's really sweet like that, then I'll take care of my grandkids because they're still figuring it out in their careers. You're supposed to be the number one investor in your kids' business or in their dreams and aspirations. Shouldn't have to let your kids go out here to somebody else and let them give somebody else a chance to believe in them before you believe in them. This is before you get to retirement. Now let's get back to the retirement part that they mentioned. Retirement from the job is a safety net so that you still have all your bases covered when you're no longer working. Because that's what a job does. But it does not usurp or eradicate the thing that you have to continue, the notion that you have to continue to earn money. So when you stop earning money just because you retired from a job, that's your fault. Because if you work long enough to retire from a job, you got so much skills, more skills than anybody else. You know that better than anybody. And as long as you're able to get on trips and go on, do this and sit in the house, twinkle your toes, do whatever you do in retirement, that means you have a little bit of time throughout your week to make more money. You can be a consultant. You can start a business and put other young people to work doing things that you never wanted to do or things that you used to do. Why? Because you got to understand creating this situation is not about you. A lot of that generation have become selfish. They're extremely selfish. And some reasons are good because they were taken advantage of. They were lied to. They were told things that when they got to this age, they found out that were total lies. I get that. At the same time, that's not the whole story of it. Then in the selfish way, you started giving that garbage that you got from other people. Even when you found out that it was garbage, you started pouring it into your kids. And even if you did it before you got the knowledge, you didn't try to correct it. You didn't apologize for it. You didn't fix it. You didn't step in and try to make it any better. And so now that kid has to come back to your house. But it's supposed to always be that way. You're supposed to have a place in your children's house, and your children are always supposed to have a place in your house. But for some reason, in the African American community, because that's what I can speak to the most, I have no problems with nobody else's community, but I know in mine, we suck at that. Now, I know some amazing families that I've gotten a chance to witness, and I've been able to, in my heart, and take that in and say, this is how I'm going to do for my family. Shout out to my adopted family, the Staley's. I love that those parents, Mama and Papa Staley, who make room for their children and their children's children. That's Bible. And they've done it. They've never tried to get a house that their kids couldn't be in. They've never had a situation where their kids didn't have a place to come back to. Ever. This is why generations upon generations of their family, right now, you're looking at them do well. And I'm so grateful to be in the presence to get a chance to witness how I'm supposed to do my family. But in our community, we always, hey, you got to do your own. They use the word survive so many times. You got to teach them how to survive on their own. Teach them how to survive. Why do my kid have to survive if I had to survive? If I survive, my kids should learn how to thrive. The last thing is that we have to understand that our kids are going to deal with problems that we never seen before, a la COVID-19. I always say, if we were in school when COVID-19 came, we all would have died. These kids are were better equipped to handle working, doing schoolwork from home, being able to deal with everything was just better. The stage was set better for them, not for us. And there's going to be more things to come. It doesn't have to be like that we don't know about. So we need to make sure that they're fully equipped to handle their problems. But what we're doing in the Black community is allowing our kids to still deal with our problems and go